Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to Workfront Champion Office Hours. Your host today, myself, Deborah Lawrence. I work at IBM. However, I have 8 years experience in Workfront, 4 years from Workfront and 4 years at IBM, and also a recent Adobe Workfront Champion. And I'm here today with Victoria.
Hello, everyone. I'm Victoria. I'm from Accenture. I have been doing Workfront for about 7-8 years now and primarily focus on Workfront implementations. And welcome to our Workfront Champion Office Hours.
Cool, so I'm going to whiz through the agenda quite quickly and also my bits, which are about house rules and about how to join our chapter, as we've got so much content to get through today. We have the exciting topic of today is back to workflow basics, the beauty of Workfront standard functionality, which is really great. It's no AI, no automations, integrations. We're going back to basics, and we're going to talk about what is in Workfront for everyone. So we've got some great best practices demos to show you today. Now, feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A section as we go through. We're going to let the presenters actually do their presentation and then first, and then we're going to sort of pick up any questions we might have. Hopefully we've got 10 minutes at the end. We're also aware you've sent in some questions ahead of time as well, so hopefully we'll get through those. But yes, we'll try to ask as much as we can, answer as much as we can in the chat as we go through. We also have some potential other Adobe Workfront champions joining as well, which could help us answer the questions too. Great, so just to give you a notice, it is being recorded, this meeting, and it is going to be on a public YouTube channel. Okay, so it's the Adobe User Group YouTube channel. If you do not want to participate in a live recording that's going to be public on YouTube, then feel free to watch this recording later. But we've posted that link up there. That YouTube link is where all our recordings go. So it should be like a day or so when we get to upload them to that particular channel. But so anytime you want to watch a recording, you just go there. So some house rules to ensure our calls stay very user-focused and a safe space for our members to learn and network and problem solve. We ask that all of the attendees follow these rules. So number one, so no self-promotion or pitching of any kind is permitted. Do not contact people outside the meeting without their consent. And when these user cases are shared, please do not reshare this information without the original owner's consent. So staying connected with our chapter. So if you haven't done already, we do have a Adobe Workfront Office Hours chapter. And if you don't join it, you won't get these new event notifications. So we've also got that link pinned in the chat. So if you haven't joined it, just click the link and click join, and that's it. So over to our presenters. We've got Elizabeth up first, Tim, and then Carol, all going through different types of project management best practices. So over to the first one, which is Elizabeth. I want to take it away. I'll just stop sharing, and over to you.
Thanks, Deborah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Beth Rouch. I am a Workfront Solution Architect at LeapPoint. I've been a business consultant specialized in Workfront implementations and enhancements for about 4 years. And prior to my consulting career, I was at Stanley Black & Decker with our friend and esteemed Workfront superstar, Monique Evans. That is where I served in a variety of sales and marketing operations related roles, including lead system admin of Workfront through the company's initial implementation. So my Workfront admin experience began in 2015, and my passion for the tool and its capabilities has been growing ever since. Today, what I want to walk you through is a practical native Workfront approach to managing complex marketing campaigns with multiple deliverables. So the reality is that most marketing organizations struggle with campaign management, scattered information, version control issues, and communication breakdowns. But it doesn't have to be this way. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how to use Workfront's core functionality to create a streamlined, efficient system where one campaign coordinates multiple deliverables. Your campaign brief stays in sync across all projects in real time, and your entire team stays informed and aligned. So let's do it. Let's start with the obvious challenge. Campaign management is messy. You've got multiple deliverables, social media campaigns, email sequences, video content, print materials. It's all happening in parallel. Some are dependent upon the completion of others, and often they are owned and managed by different teams. Deliverable counts for large-scale campaigns can reach the hundreds or even thousands. And with this immense volume and complexity, campaign information gets siloed, scattered, and miscommunicated across emails, documents, spreadsheets, and different systems. Now, when the strategic direction or specific element in the creative brief changes, I say when because it often does, it's very challenging to ensure that the change is instantly communicated and updated across every project. And furthermore, with creative and activation groups owning their individual projects, campaign managers lack visibility into whether all the deliverables are progressing on schedule. So once again, communication breaks down, and then rework is often needed when creative professionals didn't know about a brief change. So the campaign manager is constantly chasing people down and interrupting their work with questions like, what's the status of your deliverables? And where are we at with the campaign? Or, hey, did you see the updated messaging? So these are not system failures. These are functional, structural, and communicative problems. And we can solve them with a relatively simple and scalable approach. So this design addresses those problems that we just identified. You can think of your campaign management system in terms of 4 elements. A Workfront program that serves as the central command center for your campaign. This is where the campaign manager maintains all the creative brief details. Multiple and unlimited projects within that program, each representing a different deliverable or deliverable type. Project templates and custom forms that prescribe the workflow for each deliverable type and pull campaign data from the program in real time. And custom dashboards that make all this data easily accessible and visually digestible. So the concept, again, is relatively simple. It's one campaign that orchestrates unlimited deliverables with centralized brief management. So let's start with that program record, which represents your overall campaign. The campaign manager or strategic director owns the program record. They are responsible for maintaining all the creative brief details in a program level custom form. So this custom form captures everything that the campaign manager needs to communicate about the campaign. Details like the objectives and the goals, the target audience and messaging, timelines, key milestones, brand guidelines, budget allocation, success metrics, etc. The key insight here is that this is your centralized source of truth. So all campaign level information lives in one single place. It's not scattered or duplicated across multiple records that are kept by various campaign contributors. And when anyone needs to reference the campaign details, they know exactly where to find them. When edits, updates, and comments are made on the campaign, it's done in this one place and then automatically propagated to every related deliverable project. Making the program the hub for the campaign information eliminates most version control problems right from the start. Nothing new or groundbreaking here. Projects are where the actual work happens. Each deliverable for your campaign becomes a project record within the program. Now, depending on the needs and the comfort of your organization, you can have a project for each and every little deliverable, or you might consider a solution that utilizes issues as deliverables that can be converted into additional projects within the program or tasks within each deliverable project, kind of like a punch list. All these deliverable projects are grouped together, easy to find, and completely visible in the projects section of the program record. So they can be viewed, tracked, and monitored by the campaign managers and stakeholders using Workfront's native filters, views, and groupings. The beauty of this structure is that you can create as many deliverable projects as you need, from a few to literally thousands, giving you clear and complete real-time visibility into all campaign components. So Carol's actually going to show us filters, views, and groupings in more detail a little later in this session. But here's what this solution looks like in practice. You see on the screen the Built on Basics, aka Bob campaign in Workfront. It's a program that has 7 deliverable projects associated with it. The campaign brief lives in the program details. And in the projects area, you have your social media project, your email campaign project, video production, print, collateral, etc. All these projects are organized in that one place, and they are all connected to the same campaign, the program. And you can use filters using groupings here to customize your own personal visualization. If your campaign has milestones, you could even create a milestone path and apply it to all the deliverable projects and tasks, which will enable you to track campaign progress using the native milestone view that's available here. In this screenshot, you also see a custom dashboard called Campaign Overview displayed in the left nav menu, and I'll explain that in more detail in a moment. But first, let's talk about the purpose of having project templates for each deliverable type. Templates do more than just expedite the creation of a task list to produce that type of deliverable. They also ensure that each deliverable project record has the correct settings and contains relevant custom data. So in this design, there's actually 2 types of custom forms. There's deliverable specific custom forms that capture information about that particular deliverable. So for a social media project, your form might have platform or post count or content themes. For video, you could have the duration of the video, the format, or the shoot location. These details don't need to be in the campaign or in the campaign brief because they're only applicable to these specific deliverables. Now, here's the key innovation. You also add a campaign level custom form to each project template. And this form pulls data from the program record using calculated fields. So it automatically displays campaign information like the target audience, the messaging, the brand guidelines, timeline, budget, all the pertinent strategic creative brief details. And the benefit is prescriptive, repeatable workflows, plus that real-time campaign direction at the project level. Team members know exactly how to do their work, and they have the latest campaign information available right there in the project's left nav menu. When you use calculated fields on your project custom forms to reference the program details, you enable real-time campaign transparency on every related project. So here's an example. A campaign manager realizes after the campaign kicks off that the target audience needs to shift. So what they do is they update the target audience details on the program creative brief form. And immediately when the team members on any of the deliverable projects view their project details, they see the updated audience information. Calculated fields mean that everyone has the latest information instantly, which minimizes errors from outdated information and reduces the need for rework. As another example, if the messaging changes mid-workflow, you don't want the creative team to spend any more time producing content based on old messaging. So this feature alone, the calculated fields that are pulling the campaign data into the projects, this feature helps us work more efficiently and optimizes campaign management. Now, you might be thinking to yourself that it's unrealistic to expect the campaign contributors and stakeholders to notice exactly when something changes in the creative brief, and you're correct. Calculated fields will push the data, but they're not going to notify people. So that's where the best practice of comments and updates comes in. When the campaign manager updates the creative brief, they should still add a comment or update to the program explaining what changed. And additionally, they can add that information in a bulk update on every project in the program. So for example, the campaign manager might write something like, creative brief updated, new target audience information, see brief details in your project. Then they can copy and bulk apply that update to all the deliverable projects within the program. And then instantly, everyone on every team gets notified and they know to look at the brief details in their project. This greatly reduces miscommunication, and everyone is notified at the same time when the campaign direction changes. Here's some screenshots showing the comms best practices and what that looks like in Workfront. When you change the brief, you can use the bulk edit feature to drop a comment in all the affected deliverable projects. Communication is key in optimizing complex campaign management. So far we've talked about programs, projects, templates, calculated fields, and communication best practices. But people also need to find information easily and understand what they're looking at. So custom dashboards are the cherry on top of our campaign management sundae. You can create custom dashboards that display campaign details, project details, analytics, and KPIs. And then you can add these dashboards to the left navigation menus of your programs and projects, either manually or through customized layout templates. These custom dashboards elevate the user experience. Instead of team members navigating through the details pages, multiple screens, scattered reports to find what they need, they see a clear, visually organized dashboard placed on the records that they're working on. Creatives and producers can see campaign status at a glance while working on deliverables, and campaign managers can see all deliverables and their progress summarized on a single screen. Everyone sees metrics that matter, and they have quick access to key information. And this doesn't just look nice, it also drives better decision-making and boosts productivity. So here's a simple example of what a program level dashboard could look like. You might include a campaign overview section showing campaign name, status, timeline, who the campaign manager is. You might have a deliverable status report showing all the projects with their % complete, condition, and latest update. You might have a creative brief report with the brief details, when they were last updated, and any recent changes. A budget overview could break down the campaign budget and track spending, and KPI snapshots can show progress towards your success metrics. This campaign dashboard lives right on the program record in the left navigation menu. Campaign managers and stakeholders can pull up the program and immediately see everything that matters about the campaign. No digging and scrolling through the program details, no searching multiple reports. One glance very succinctly tells the campaign story. Now at the project level, you'd have a similar yet different dashboard focused on that specific deliverable and its relationship to the campaign. So this might include a deliverable status section showing the timeline, the milestones, and the current progress, a campaign context section, which displays the relevant brief information pulled from the program so that the team always sees the campaign context without having to navigate back to the program record itself. A team collaboration section could show recent updates, comments, pending approvals, and who's assigned to what. A resource allocation view could show who's working on this and their availability, and progress metrics specific to this deliverable could show that as well. Any team member who's working on a deliverable project can pull up this projects dashboard and see deliverable specific information, direction on what they need to do, and the campaign context for why they're doing it. Everything's integrated into one organized view. So how do you set this up for yourself and for your organization? This is the implementation summarized into 5 steps. Step 1 would be to identify your standard deliverable types and list them out. Step 2, create the creative brief custom form for the program, deliverable specific custom forms for each project type, and project type custom forms with calculated fields to reference and display the program data. Then build a template for each deliverable type with task lists for the typical workflow. Apply the relevant custom forms, test and make sure that the data sync is working correctly, and then create your program level and project level dashboards and add them to the left navigation pane. So let me wrap up by highlighting why this approach is so effective. It provides centralized control with one source of truth for all campaign information while enabling scalability to manage unlimited campaigns and deliverables. Consistency comes from repeatable, standardized workflows, and efficiency is gained through real-time data sync that replaces manual updates. Communication becomes instant with automatic team notifications. Visibility improves through clear dashboards for all stakeholders, and flexibility allows easy customization for any campaign type. The result is increased productivity through improved experience and measurable ROI from faster execution and fewer delays. So I thank you for your time today. I know we covered a lot, including templates, which we're going to dive into a bit deeper as I turn it over to Tim. And I'll end simply by reiterating that this approach, which leverages native Workfront functionality, brings organization, efficiency, and real-time collaboration to campaign management. When you implement this, your campaign managers and strategic leaders have better control, your functional teams have clearer direction, campaigns are transparent, and your org executes cleaner and faster. If you have any questions about what we just went through, please hold them for the Q&A portion at the end of this session, or drop a note in the chat and we can try to answer as they come through.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Well done. Okay, we have Tim up next.
All right, here we go. Hey, everyone. I am Tim Wyckoff. I work as a workflow manager / sort of Workfront architect for a company called Shaw Industries. We're a big commercial and residential flooring manufacturer with different brands of flooring solutions and accessories. Shaw itself is based out of Dalton, Georgia, which you may have never heard of unless you're maybe one of the folks I see here from Atlanta. But I am lucky enough to live in Clearwater, Florida, which is a little bit more pretty and less wintry this time of year. A little bit about me and my project management history. I started using Workfront in 2016, and I feel like I've done all sorts of project management work, from construction to creative video and graphic design to live events, you name it. And all that means is I've got a bunch of different random perspectives on the topic of project management in general. But today I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth specifically about templates in Workfront. You can use project templates to capture most of the repeatable processes, information, and settings associated with different project types in your organization. Functionally speaking, templates can be used to convert requests into new projects, or they can be used by project managers to bypass a request queue and just start a project from scratch if they already have the required project information. At a glance, templates themselves already look quite a bit like projects. They can have sets of tasks with parent-child relationships, document setup, etc., all depending on the type of work to be done. And we'll get into all that in a minute. But from my perspective, I think templates should be seen as sort of a shotgun approach to closely approximate the types of tasks and assignments and amount of hours needed for projects of a particular nature. Generally speaking, as far as I'm concerned with project management, I'm personally all about shaving minutes here and there because those add up, both in real time and in frustration over repetitive tasks that have to be done frequently. And yes, I know the sales pitch for Fusion is exactly for that repetitive task issue, but remember today we are not talking about Fusion in this session, and we're here to show you that you don't have to get it to have your work done in meaningful ways. Templates should vary depending on any number of factors that you decide on. For example, different templates could be used depending on the type of work to be managed. Is it an event, a marketing campaign, a video shoot? Each requires different tasks and work assignments. Each has a different timeline. Each type of task may have a different duration or estimated amount of hours to complete. So having completely different templates will save time on the initial project setup. Templates could also vary based on team preferences. Does a team like to work in a particular way with a waterfall approach? Do they want each individual deliverable like listed as a task, or do they want them all lumped together and defined in the task description and so on? You could have different templates simply based on portfolio management. Should a certain set of projects be routed to a particular program or portfolio by default, or just general functionality? How should the project itself behave? Should it be based on the completion date because it has a firm due date? Or should it reflect real-time work as it happens and evolves? Or like, should the parent-child tasks relate? What milestones should be included and reported on? I call this other information functional DNA. And what do I mean by functional DNA? Because this is my term, not Adobe's. These settings are often like DNA because most people don't even see them, but they control how a project functions in the real world. Setting up templates correctly with this DNA is vital for sharing and management permissions, as well as other functionality. There are tons of settings that can be changed in a template to alter how your projects will behave depending on your needs. You can probably either see this as wonderfully beneficial or possibly really annoying and scary. There are so many settings to consider, it can feel really overwhelming. But just remember that when you get them dialed in the way you want your projects to function, you can copy templates and thus their template settings, just like you can with projects. And then you can customize the rest of the tasks and assignments, etc., as you see fit. Plus, getting the settings right in the template and not having to go in and update certain settings for each individual projects will save you time and potentially lots of it. Template details within this functional DNA hold a few very important components that can change how a future project functions. For example, if you don't know about the schedule mode, it has a start versus completion date option. And scheduling the future project based on the start date will allow the project to flow naturally as tasks and durations evolve. Basing it on the completion date says there is a necessary due date to the project, and it limits the management of tasks so that no task due dates can be pushed out past that project's planned completion date. Template details also include portfolio and program association information. Adding the projects to portfolios and programs allows for easy portfolio management, but it can also automatically allow sharing permissions because portfolio permissions for viewing and managing can be shared ahead of time with certain individuals, teams, and groups in the portfolio settings. So having a preset template with those portfolios already added will automatically grant those same permissions as soon as the project is created because the project is immediately added to that portfolio through the template. Stakeholder information, obviously permissions and access can be granted through being the project owner, sponsor, or resource manager. So you may want to set up those roles ahead of time for your particular template too. Of course, everything in here in the template details can be changed after the fact, but the point is these can be baked into the template ahead of time. Again, can we save a few minutes here and there by not having to fill these fields out every time we create a project? We can, and I think those minutes really add up. Similarly to the template details, we have template settings that are found a little deeper inside the template. To access and edit some of those other template settings, you need to go to the more, that 3 dots icon next to the template name. Projects created from templates behave certain ways depending on these settings as well. For instance, the completion mode automatic will mark the project complete automatically when and only when all the tasks within it are marked complete. Summary completion mode automatic will sort of do the same thing to parent tasks and child tasks. It'll allow the child task to automatically calculate and roll up into the parent task to show the total completion percentage of that parent task as well as the child task makes progress. There are quite a few settings in there, and I recommend going with most of the defaults that Workfront provides just because it's easier. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to dive into each of them, but Experience League has a much more thorough explanation as to what each of these can do. So if you feel like it, just go in there and look for the Edit Project Templates page, and you can do some more digging yourself if you really want to. Just like projects and tasks, templates can hold documents and have folder structures too. And when the templates are used to create projects, the projects will already have those structures built into them. Again, saving a few minutes here and there is what I'm always after, but doing this also really benefits your associate or user experience in Workfront too. In this case, our designers or project managers don't have to set up a folder structure for each project created from this template, of course, saving time. But not only does this save time on the setup, this creates consistency for everyone involved, easily knowing where to place the appropriate documents and allowing others to have a consistent place to find them so they don't have to go searching for what they need every time. Here you can see design assets can be added to the asset folder, and proofs and final files can be added the same way. You can even add specific files or shared documents in the template at a time, like design templates or brand guides, if you find that beneficial. Let's talk about template task information. In the template tasks, you can utilize the planned hours and estimated task durations, and assignments can be preset to individuals or just general job roles, and then later assigned one by one with the bulk assignment tool. Again, use the templates as sort of a shotgun approach to closely approximate the amount of hours needed for general projects and tasks of a particular type. But I don't think they have to be 100% accurate because, of course, every project is naturally going to be different. So don't sweat it, just get close. Using all that along with your resource management tool to assign the work, you can more quickly see where your team has capacity or if due dates need to be adjusted before the problem actually hits you in real time. As a side note, I know there was a question about resource management tool ahead of time. I think it's another very beneficial feature that has a bunch of cool ways of being utilized. But I think, unfortunately, for the sake of time, I need to stick to the topic of templates. But maybe we can have another PM session on resource management, or maybe if there's time afterward, we can jump into it more. I don't know. But anyway, back to the templates task information. It really helps to have your durations already sort of pre-configured and calculated ahead of time, even just so you can know the general amount of time needed for certain types of projects. For example, for us, we know most of our graphic design requests may take about a week, but it might take a month for our CGI projects. Likewise, we have massive product launch projects that take years to get through the innovation and product development process. You may already just kind of know in your head how long a project typically takes, but sometimes it takes seeing it spelled out in a template for other stakeholders to really understand why a project might generally take as long as it does. And it's great to know ahead of time where our challenges might be, or where we might need to plan ahead to keep a project on track, or where we should just try to be quicker and more efficient. Again, on these templates, I'd say don't worry about getting this detailed with a finely sharpened pencil. The point is just to get these estimates on the template close so that when the actual project is created, a few of these items might only need minor tweaks by the project manager. Probably all of us use custom forms to capture requests from the business, but they can also be added onto the templates themselves ahead of time. I think the best practice here is to add the same forms used for requests to the templates that you'd probably use to convert them into projects. Doing that would allow a PM to bypass that request submittal process if needed to save some time. And yes, you can always add custom forms to a project as you're creating it from a template as well. But if you're like 99% sure you're going to use the most common custom form in your system, just bake it into the template ahead of time and save yourself a few seconds. One helpful tip I can give you here is you can also add additional custom forms that are not a part of any request queue to that project template. In the example you see here, the new product development gate criteria is the custom form that the requester fills out when they're submitting a request. Then the Resi Innovation Idea PM form below it contains the fields that the requester wouldn't know the answers to, since they would be discovered as the actual project evolves. But the PM knows we need to begin tracking that information not long after the project is initiated. Again, we do this because we know there is information that the requester 100% wouldn't or shouldn't know when submitting. You might be asking, couldn't I just add non-required fields to the initial request form? And if they're irrelevant, the requester can just skip them? Yes, you can do that. Of course you can. But doing it this way helps keep that completely irrelevant field off the request form entirely and helps avoid confusion for the requester. Because in my experience, the more we have users getting in the habit of seeing irrelevant fields and not filling them in, the more they get in the habit of not answering the questions that are truly required. I mean, unless you really like tracking down that requester who always puts NA in all of the required text fields just because they have to put something in there. Not that that would actually happen in real life, of course, but I digress. All right, as you can see from what we've explored and talked about, templates are more than just sets of tasks. They have built-in permissions and functionality that most users don't even realize is in there. So creating new projects from random templates that are improperly set up is potentially incredibly disruptive to your ecosystem and can cause a heavy amount of troubleshooting for admins and project managers when people say, this project isn't working like my other project, Workfront must be broken. So like most organizations, we limit who has access to view and use templates in the first place because most users typically don't even need to deal with them. However, we are even more strict on permissions for who can edit or create templates. And I encourage you to do the same. We do this through the access levels and the admin setup, and it's so important to our organization. We have 2 project manager levels to utilize templates, but only one has permissions to edit templates while the other just doesn't. You kind of have to prove yourself worthy. I think I said it before, but my best practice tip here is to get a template to function the exact way you want it to, and then copy from there to keep that same functional DNA in all the subsequent templates. And then as an organization, really limit who has access to create templates and train them properly so your admin isn't spending all day troubleshooting. Okay, I think that's it for me. That's my time. So thank you for listening if you did. And now I think we're about ready to move on to Carol.
Thanks, Tim.
Go down, Tim. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Okay, let me go ahead and start sharing. All right. Okay, great. Well, first, just a little bit about me. I have 7 years of experience as a Workfront system admin for a global marketing agency, and I've worked out of multiple instances of Workfront. During my Workfront journey, I've been lucky to work with a lot of smart and creative people, including many people on the call today. Including Adobe consultants, Workfront champions, system admins, internal users, and coworkers. And everyone has given me insight and ideas on different ways to use the tool. And I am truly a believer that a good idea can come from anywhere and anyone, and even my dogs will back me up on that, as you can see from the picture. Besides being a dog mom, I support a team of 100+ project managers, managing over 50 clients with more than 500 active projects at a time. And one thing I know for sure is that project managers don't want to duplicate information that is already being managed in the tool when reviewing the work with their team. They want one source of truth, and they want it in Workfront. So today I'm going to take us back to the basics of managing work in Workfront using filters and views. By leveraging custom forms, fields, and advanced column settings, you can tailor your project timelines to shape Workfront data to support your planning, tracking, and reporting needs. I'm going to share tried and tested ways to manage the work using filters and views that can be applied directly to project timelines or pulled into reports to share with the team. So today's topics include a task custom form, 3 custom fields that I'm going to review with you, and advanced column settings, including custom column labels, field format, and column rules. Plus, at the end, I'm going to throw in a few extra tips and tricks for help managing project timelines. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is to create a task custom form. You will have standardized fields on this form, and you can use them on project tasks for viewing and reporting. I'm recommending 3 fields to include an internal notes field, which is just a paragraph text field, a client-facing tasks field, which is a radio button with a yes/no option, and then also a task color red font radio button field with yes/no choices. And then you can add this task custom form to your templates, which Tim and Beth both talked about, to save you time, or you can add it to your project tasks directly. So the internal notes field, this is a custom field that can be inline edited when viewing the project timeline with your team. Notes entered in this field remain until updated or deleted, and you can use this information in the internal notes field to reference in meetings. This information does not need to necessarily be in Workfront, but it helps internal teams track specifics, notes, statuses, to-dos, important dates at a glance. You can even document key dates that have been communicated with the client to reference when project managers need to revise the schedule. For example, maybe somebody has a hard stop at 12 noon and you need to get the client their creative round by that time. So when you need to go in and change your timeline, you want to make sure that you're hitting that date and time and don't miss that deliverable. This also helps project managers be able to jump in and cover for each other if they're backing each other up. So to do this, you're going to create an internal notes view to use when meeting with your team on project status. You're going to add the internal notes custom field, and then I applied a column rule to turn that text purple when it's not blank. You can choose any color you like. I just chose purple so that it would stand out when looking at the project timeline. I also wanted to address the last note text field. This is a great field to include in your view as well. It's going to show you the last update made on your project. Just a couple things to keep in mind. It only shows the last update entered. So if there was back and forth and people replying, you're only going to see that last response. It's also not an editable field. So if you are looking at your project timeline when statusing with your team, you would have to click into that task to see the email string or the update string. So really, I recommend adding both to them so that when you're looking at your internal notes view, you can use the internal notes for editing live, inline editing, and then references the last update as well. The second field I wanted to talk about was a client-facing task field. So this is a custom field that can be used to flag specific tasks. Sometimes you might have a timeline with 200 tasks, but when you want to share that project timeline with the client, maybe there's only 20 key tasks that you want them to see and reference. So also when you're sharing that information with the client, you might want to limit all the information that maybe your internal team is looking at. They maybe don't need to see the assignments and the predecessors and the planned hours. So you can also limit the task fields that you're going to export and share with them. In my example here, for example, I'm just showing the task name and dates. So how to do this? Again, you would add the client-facing task column to an editing view of your project timeline. And then you're just going to go through and flag those tasks that you want to share with the client by inline editing the field to yes. And again, save some minutes. If this is a repetitive project that you use over and over again, you can set this up on your template tasks. And then go ahead and create a client-facing task filter to show those client-facing tasks that are yes. And then also create a client-facing task view to limit those fields to task name, start date, and due date. Then apply that filter and that task, and then you can go ahead and export that as a PDF or an Excel to share with the client. So that's just an example there. And the last field, custom field I wanted to talk about was task color red font. So this custom field can be used to highlight specific tasks when looking at your full project timeline, right? So maybe you want to see everything, but you just want those key tasks to pop. So when applied to a project timeline view, those key tasks are displayed with the color formatting to be recognized at a glance. I used red font, but again, you can use whatever color you want. But to add the task color red font, you're going to add that column to, again, an editing view of your project timeline. Again, you're going to go through and flag those tasks that you want to turn red by saying yes, and you can do this on the template as well. And then you're going to create a timeline view. I added 2 column rules. So the first one just is showing that the task color is red. And then the second one, I wanted those milestone or parent tasks to have a gray background. So when you apply the timeline view to your project task, then you're going to be able to see those tasks at a glance with that color formatting. Now I'm going to jump over to advanced column settings, including custom column label, field format, and column rules to give you ideas for ways to show information that matters most to your team. So the first one is just a reminder really about the custom column label. You can use this to rename a column header for clarity. Maybe there's nomenclature that you use at your organization that you want to use in your column heading, or maybe you have a lot of fields and you have limited real estate, so you're trying to simplify those column headings. So for example, here, instead of plan start date, you're just saying start on. Another thing to remember is that field format is available, and this is for your date fields. So the default is that it just shows the date. At my organization, we have a lot of projects with multiple deliverables that hit within one day. So we apply the field format that shows the day of the week as well as the time. So when you're looking at your project timeline, you can see those multiple daily deliverables and make sure you're hitting them throughout the day. I also wanted to share a couple column rules that have been really helpful for our teams. So you can apply two column rules for can start. The first one, you want to go ahead and add the can start column, and then you can add a green icon for when it's true and a red icon for when it's false, so that again, when you're looking at your project timeline, you and your team can see which tasks are ready to start on. Another one we like to use is color coding for planned completion date. You can add two column rules again to show this. So the first one is just showing a red background and a red font for any tasks that are less than or equal to today. And I think -1 week, so we can see a week back, anything late. And then the second one is just a color coding background that's showing anything that's due today. So again, when you're statusing with your team, you can quickly see what's late and what's due today. And then I just wanted to share a couple extra tips and tricks to help you manage your project timeline. The first one is one I learned the hard way, so I like to share it with folks. So when you are working on your project timeline and deleting tasks or mostly deleting, I would say I use this for, again, you have a long timeline with 100+ tasks. Maybe you checked something inadvertently up at the top and then you scrolled down and now you're going to delete a section, and I have deleted those tasks above as well. So this is just something I recommend when you're updating your project timeline. Just go ahead and check that first box in your header to select all the tasks, then uncheck it, or check it again to unselect those tasks, and then go down and select the specific tasks you want to delete. A second tip that I wanted to share is just, I get a lot of panic calls from folks going, oh my gosh, what happened to my timeline? Everything's out of order. The numbers are out of order. I've lost my parent-child relationship. So just again, if this ever happens, what probably happened is you might have inadvertently clicked on a column header, which resorted your project timeline. So if you just go ahead and click on that hashtag or numeral symbol up in the upper left corner, it's going to reset the order of your tasks and also restore that parent-child relationship. Another one that I recommend, if you have a lot of changes that you need to make to your timeline, I would recommend using plan mode. The default is autosave. So every time you make a change, it's going to save it. When you use plan mode, it allows you to undo, redo changes before saving. So this gives you time to look at everything, make sure it looks good before you go ahead and hit save. And then when you're doing all those changes, Workfront will push those changes in, but sometimes it's not immediate. So I recommend going up to the More menu or the 3 dots next to your project name and go ahead and push those calculations through by hitting recalculate timeline. That way you can see those changes immediately and make sure they're what you're looking for. Last but not least, don't forget to share your project timeline filters and views with your team so everyone is looking at the same data. And that's it for me today. So thanks again for spending time with us. Hopefully you got to learn some workflow basics using standard functionality.
Thank you, Carol.
Sure.
Thanks so much. And thanks all of you for today. It's been brilliant.
So I think we've answered most of the questions in the chat, but there is one I thought would be good to surface to the larger group, just in case you didn't get to read Beth's response on here. So Chase had asked to Beth on the first presentation, how would you suggest managing a change to a campaign launch date by the lead, where now the associated deliverable projects all may need to move out or up based on the launch date change? Throw it over to you, Beth.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I thought that was a really great question too. So I copied it and I pasted it in the Q&A and I answered it there. So you're going to get the typical consultant answer from me. There are a number of ways that you could solution for that, and it would depend on your organization, how your people work, privacy and such, sharing rules and whatnot. One solution might be to give the campaign managers and the leads the manage rights to owning the planned start or planned completion date of the individual deliverable projects. So the lead would maintain the dates on all of those projects, and the teams working on those projects would have to accommodate to any shifts made on those dates. You could also use the communication best practices. You could have the lead blast out a communication across all those deliverable projects saying, hey, the launch date for this campaign has changed, and then it would be up to the individual deliverable project owners to adjust their timeline according to the new expected dates. That's just two simple answers there to that question.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So I guess we'll wrap a little early here just because we got through all the questions in the chat and in the Q&A section. But before we do, want to add a quick note that you are going to be getting a survey right after this call. And in the survey, we really want to hear what you liked, what you didn't like. And we also want to know a little bit more about future topics that you'd like to see, so we can plan our upcoming sessions accordingly. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.